to silence your phones and fill out the speaker card if you would like to speak to us at the public hearing this evening. Let's begin the evening as we typically do with a moment of silence. If you please join me for a brief moment of silence. Now, if you would please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We're going to immediately change hats and dismiss or recess rather the city council and reconvene as the CRA. Then we'll come back and we'll continue the city business. And we have on the CRA agenda this evening a consent agenda, a very brief consent agenda. Would anybody from the CRA wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none. Does anyone from the public have any comments on consent agenda item number 2, which is the Florida Lighting Service Agreement, Independence Lane North for Duke Energy? Seeing none, let's close that public comment period and bring back to the council and a motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agendas presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Member Guthrie?
Aye.
Member Shaney?
Aye.
Member French?
Aye.
Member Randolph?
Aye.
Chair Lowndes?
Aye. Okay, we have accomplished our task for the evening, so let us close the CRA meeting and reconvene, adjourn the CRA meeting and reconvene as the city council. Okay, here we're back as city council. Mark, is there any more business to report?
No, sir, but just a reminder to make sure that when you're speaking, your mics are on. We had some input from the public that even though we can hear you here, it doesn't pick up and broadcast. It would be there for rebroadcast. If someone wants to go back and review the meeting, at least the audio part. So
They can't be talking about me. I know I'm loud.
But even
I can be just across the street.
No one will argue with that, man. But if your mic's not on, the other mics will pick you up, but not as loud as some people would like. So,
Right. And it helps also to draw the mic closer to your
absolutely.
to your face. If we can do that as well. All right. The consent agenda. Does anybody on council wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? Okay, does anybody from the public have any comments on consent agenda items 3 through 6? Okay, let's close the public comment period and bring back to council. Motion be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right.
Or on
No.
drawing pistols.
Yeah.
Councilmember French?
Okay. All right. Goes first alphabetically, so we'll give it to him. Ty goes to the alphabet. All right. Let's open the public period. Oh, sorry. We got to go to the approve the agenda. Sorry. Or please call the roll.
Councilmember Guthrie?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaney?
Aye.
Councilmember French?
Aye.
Councilmember Randolph?
Aye.
Mayor Lowndes?
Aye. Okay. We have adopted the consent agenda. Now let's go to the public period. Would anybody from the public like to address the council on any item, virtually any item at all? We have one person, looks like she's going to make her way to the podium. Here she goes.
Hi all, I'm Stacy Larson. I am the director of the Maitland Public Library, and I would like to cordially invite everyone to our annual festivities, Astronomy Week. We do this every year. It's a big event. We do events all day. Astronomy Week will start on Monday, February 16th. We have got children's events every afternoon. We will have telescope viewing on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, weather permitting. And on Wednesday, February 18th, from 3 to 6, we will have the inflatable planetarium from the Museum of Arts and Sciences in Daytona Beach. So all of the events are on our calendar at maitlandpubliclibrary.org. The only things that involve registration are some of our kids' craft events in the afternoon, like junior astronomers. So please take a look at our calendar and come out for the stars. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Always reminding us that there is so much more to our library than just books. Does anybody else have any comment for the public? Okay, seeing none, let's close the public comment period and move on to our decisions. First item is Resolution 2-2026. Mark, would you like to introduce that?
Yes, sir. As you all recall, back in November of 2023, the City Council adopted Resolution number 2020-23, which authorized an election to determine if the electors of the City of Maitland approved the issuance of a general obligation bond in the amount of $14 million for the purposes of financing new library improvements and improvements to Quinn Strong Park. The election was held March 19th, and the bond referendum was approved. So since then, we've been working on the design of the library. That's been approved. The construction drawings have been approved by the City Council. And as that's been going on, we've been working with our municipal advisor, our financial advisor from PFM, Jay Glover, who's been sort of spearheading this, as well as our bond counsel at Bryant, Miller & Allen and Cliff, to put all the bond documents together. So tonight, this is the resolution tonight is to authorize us to move forward from here. We've invited Jay to come sort of talk to you about where we are right now and the next steps as we move forward, to give you a little clearer understanding of where we're going to be. So with that, Jay, I'd like to turn it over to you. Thank you for being here tonight.
Perfect. Great to be here. City Manager, Mayor, Council members, Jay Glover from PFM Financial Advisors. We are your municipal advisor or financial advisor, so we're really kind of the quarterback of the financing team that has worked with your staff to put together the resolution that you're about to consider here. The resolution will be really the final formal act that you all take before these bonds are issued. Obviously, there might be other steps related to the construction of the project, but this will be the final action you all consider related to actually approving this financing. And the resolution before you really authorizes the issuance of those bonds, assuming we can meet certain parameters that are laid out within the resolution and are consistent with the referendum that was approved by your electors. So the three parameters, again, are the not to exceed par amount of $14 million, which is what was approved by the voters. We're also authorized to issue the bonds with a final maturity up to 30 years from the issuance of the bonds, which is also part of the referendum. I think the current plan is not to issue 30-year debt. I think we're still considering whether the debt will be 15 or 20 years, because issuing over 30 years just pays a lot of excess interest, and really you don't get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of a lower annual payment and thus a lower millage rate on the tax bill for doing 30-year debt versus 15 or 20-year debt. And I'll talk a little bit about the interest rates we're expecting under each of those scenarios. And the final parameter is a not to exceed true interest cost of 5%. We expect to be well below that. That's a parameter. That's a not to go above that parameter. But under current market conditions, I would expect to be between probably 3.5% to maybe 4%, probably on the lower end of that based on current market conditions. So it's a pretty attractive time to borrow money. The Federal Reserve has cut interest rates several times. So we've come off of the higher interest rate environment we were in maybe a year or so ago. So it's a pretty attractive time to borrow. I'll also mention the resolution has 4 attachments to it that are in substantially final form. The first being the official notice of sale. And what that is that's the invitation to accept bids for these bonds. They'll be sold via a competitive sale. So that official notice of sale and the summary thereof, which is Exhibit B, will announce to the market that the City of Maitland will be taking bids for these bonds on a specified advertised date. And on that date, we would award the bond to the bidder offering the lowest true interest cost. So it's a competitive sale, so we get the best rate in the market on that given day. The other two exhibits are C, the preliminary official statement. That's like a prospectus. So that describes the city, your finances, the transaction that goes out to the marketplace, and investors review that to decide if that's a bond that they want to invest in. So that's the bulk of the document, Exhibit C. And then the final exhibit is Exhibit D, which is the continuing disclosure agreement. When you issue bonds in the public capital markets, you agree to continue to provide financial information to the market over the life of the bond. So there's certain information within the POS that will have to be updated annually by your finance staff and disseminated on what we call EMA, which is a website where investors can view ongoing market information. So once you issue these bonds, while the interest rates are fixed and won't change, you will have to continue to provide certain disclosures to the marketplace. One other thing I'll mention about the bonds, we generally structure them with a 10-year par call. So even if the bonds are 15 or 20 years in duration, we will be able to potentially call those if interest rates go down over time for savings, just like you might refinance your house at some point in time. So again, the resolution before you will be your final formal act, and assuming we can meet those parameters that I mentioned, we'll be authorized to move forward with the financing. In terms of the timeline moving forward, again, we're in the home stretch here, at least in terms of the financing process. So we are in the process of working with Moody's Investor Service to get a credit rating on these bonds. We have a call that will be had with them probably at the end of February. They will assign a credit rating to the bonds, AAA, AA. We expect that to be a very strong credit rating, at least in the AA category, given your strong financial status. So that will make this a very attractive, low-cost debt instrument for you all. And then March 5th and 6th, we will actually post that official notice of sale and preliminary official statement, and that officially announces that we will accept bids. On March the 17th is the tentative date where we actually will take the bids for the bonds. And those can be viewed over the internet, and we'll see the bonds with your finance staff as they come in. And then if all goes as planned, we will be closing the week of April the 6th. And the closing just essentially entails you receiving the funds for the project. They'll then be invested and spent as the project gets underway and construction costs come in. Again, that's just kind of a brief overview of the resolution you'll consider and the process from here on out to get these bonds closed. But I'm happy to address any questions you all might have about any aspect of the financing.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Glover?
I guess having never been through this process before, once they invest in the bonds, they purchase the $14 million, how does it go from there? Do they put this on the open market where other investment firms have their clients buy bonds in 5,000 increments?
That's exactly right. So the people that bid on the bonds will be investment banking firms, and you've heard of them, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America. So they will be the firms that are putting bids in. And prior to putting bids in, they'll be soliciting feedback from potential investors who want to buy those bonds. Large bond funds generally buy these types of things. Vanguard, BlackRock, funds like that will actually buy those bonds and hold them in their portfolio. Retail investors can buy bonds as well. So if local citizens want to buy bonds and they have a brokerage account with a firm, they can actually buy bonds as well. Generally in the secondary market though, retail investment is not too active in the competitive space, but once the bonds are sold, they do trade on the secondary market. So anybody can buy them, and they do sell in $5,000 increments. So it's exactly right, exactly how it happens.
Okay, and those increments are it's not to exceed 14 million, but is it going to be 14 million? Are we going to?
Yeah, so I know that there was some questions about, generally you will issue a par amount that's slightly less than $14 million, but you will receive $14 million in actually bond proceeds. So bonds of this nature will generally sell at a premium. So you'll issue, say, $13 million worth of bonds. The investors will pay you $14 million to buy those bonds. So they're at a premium because the coupons, and this is in the weeds, I apologize, are slightly higher than the yields. So you're issuing fewer bonds at a slightly higher interest rate, and thus that's how they get sold. But it all kind of washes out in the end. That's just what investors prefer. And if you think about it from an investor perspective, that premium coupon gives them some protection when rates rise their bonds don't become discount bonds over time. So they want that little bit of a yield protection in their bonds, so they sell with a premium. So if you see the final numbers, you'll see, and there might have been in the POS, there was a preliminary par amount of like $12.5 million or something. Rest assured, you're going to get the full $14 million worth of proceeds for the project, even though the par amount will be slightly less.
Okay. And that will happen April 6th or thereabouts?
The actual sale will happen March the 17th, and then yes, the closing where the funds are wired into the city's bank account will happen the week of April the 6th.
Okay. Does anybody else have any?
Yeah, Jay, I just have a question in regards to where we are today with borrowing the 3.54%. You know, there is a lot of talk with the Fed chair stepping down and a new person coming in, and that really lowering the rates even way, way below. Is it smart now to go forward with this, or would it be wiser to wait and see what happens with that?
That's a really good question, and if I had the perfect answer for you, I probably wouldn't be standing here today. But I will tell you, when you hear that the Federal Reserve is lowering interest rates, that's the overnight benchmark rate. So it's the very short end of the yield curve. So as they lower those rates, the short end of the curve is going to come down some, but the long end of the yield curve, which is most important to you when you're issuing 15 or 20-year bonds, generally does not come down in lockstep with that. It's more driven by sort of longer term economic issues, inflation, global turmoil, various other things that might happen. So just because the Federal Reserve is likely going to probably cut rates potentially twice this year, doesn't mean that 15 and 20-year borrowing rates are coming down. And honestly, after the last several rate cuts, long-term rates have actually gone up some post-rate cuts. So what it will do is it will impact more so your investment rate. So when you get the proceeds in from the loan, you're going to invest those over a shorter period of time to match the construction draws. So your actual investment earnings will come down. But that's a long way to say, we don't try to time the market. We think it's a good opportunity now, 3.5% to 3.75%. It's a very attractive rate. We would recommend going ahead and locking that in, especially given kind of the uncertainty that's out there right now. My position is the upside risk is a lot greater than potential downside benefit given where rates are today.
And I think I was hearing before that this was hard to find this rate. Is that right? I think it was usually 5% and stuff out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, a year or so ago, borrowing over this term would have been well into the 4.5% range. So rates have come down a good bit over the last, 6 to 9 months. So it's an attractive rate. I mean, and there's a lot of there'll be a lot of interest in a deal of this size as well, and a good credit quality like the city. You haven't come to market in a very long time. So I think we'll get several bids, and I think you'll get a very attractive interest rate.
Okay. Thank you.
One more question. Sure. So Jay, so it sounds to me like there is also competition in this game. So we have other people bidding, based on that interest rate. It may go below that if it gets hot and heavy.
It's a very competitive process. So the more bidders that we can actually get to submit bids, the better. We'll also be monitoring the market as we approach March the 17th to make sure there's not a lot of competition in the market, so to speak, because it really is a supply-demand game. We don't necessarily want to be pricing when 3 or 4 other Florida local governments might have a bond deal on the same day as well. So we have flexibility within all of these documents to adjust that sale date based on other deals that might be in the market. There might be some economic turmoil in the market on a given day. So with 24 hours notice, we can actually delay that bond sale and change the sale date to make sure we get it on a day that we think we're going to get the best deal.
So that's another complexity to it. It's not just the investors that are going to purchase our bonds, but who we're competing against, trying to sell their bonds at the same time.
Very much is. I mean, it's a supply and demand game. So the more demand we can drum up from investors and investment bankers, the lower interest rates are going to go.
Okay. Let's open it up to the public. Does anybody from the public have any comment, question about this? Okay. Let's close the public comment period. and bring it back to council for discussion and a motion. Either of those things would be appropriate.
No, I don't have any discussion.
All right. How do we want to handle this?
I would make a motion to approve resolution number 2-2026, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds
Okay.
of $14 million.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Lori, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Shaney?
Aye.
Councilmember Randolph?
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie?
Aye.
Councilmember French?
Aye.
Mayor Lau?
Aye. Okay. We are going out to market. All right, our next item is the March 9th council meeting and what we want to do with it. Lori, would you like to introduce that item?
Yes, sir. The city's general municipal election will be held on Tuesday, March 10th, and the council chamber serves as one of two polling locations for the city. The Orange County Supervisor of Elections has requested to drop off materials and equipment on March 9th. This is not a new request. It's kind of been their standard practice the last few years. But that also being said, the poll clerks would like to get in on Monday afternoon and do all their pre-setup as much as they can so they can be ready to service all of our voters on the morning of the 10th. So the regularly scheduled first meeting is on March 9th. If you agree to have the equipment set up and let them get into setup process, the room has to be locked and secured until after the equipment is retrieved. So to accommodate the election operations and required security measures, staff is seeking whether you would like to cancel, relocate, or reschedule the March 9th meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Lori. So probably the first question, Mark, would be, do you foresee in your crystal ball lots of things happening on March 9th that we need to meet about?
The short answer is no. I've talked to my staff about things that are in the pipeline coming through, and what we can do is adjust those to lower them onto the 2nd February meeting, or onto let them go to the meeting at the end of March. So nothing pressing, nothing time sensitive that would be scheduled for that meeting. And if there were, something would come up, under the charter and your rules, I can pick up the phone, call the mayor, to set up a special meeting to take care of any business that would be required in that interim period.
Yeah, was it 48-hour notice? Public? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Does anybody on council have any questions or comments about how we want to handle this?
I just want to remind the council, I'm not going to be here on the 23rd of March. I'll be out of country.
Nobody likes a bragger.
Okay. So,
I'd be fine with just cancel. I mean, if we're having discussion right now, yeah. So I'd be fine just canceling it.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm for canceling.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do it the old-fashioned way. Somebody make a motion.
Do we need to open it up, or is it?
Yeah, let's open it up.
Yeah.
Now's your time. Do we meet on March 9th?
Shut down.
What is the public on that? We have a choice of changing the date, moving to a different date, or just skipping that day. Anybody have any comment on that? Seeing none, let's close the public comment period. And what do you think?
I would make a motion to cancel March 9th, 2026 city council meeting for election-related scheduling conflict.
Okay.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Lori, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember French?
Aye.
Councilmember Randolph?
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaney?
Aye.
Mayor Lau?
Aye.
Good. Go camping.
All right. March 9th. I'm free. All right, we have an ordinance number 1454. Lori, would you like to read the ordinance title?
Ordinance number 1454, an ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida relating to the numbering of buildings and the naming and renaming of streets. Amending section 5.15, building numbering and street naming of the Land Development Code, providing for the general regulation of numbering of buildings and naming and renaming of streets, providing for requirements for street renamings, providing for codification, providing for severability, and an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Let's see, Shannon, would you like to introduce this item for us?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Shannon Lewis, Assistant City Manager. Several months ago, the council adopted an ordinance that added a street renaming procedure to the Land Development Code. As we've looked at it from a practical standpoint, staff has two minor recommendations we'd like to make with council with this ordinance. One is, as you recall, one of the conditions is that 80% of the property owners fronting the street proposed to be renamed would have to consent to the renaming. In the original ordinance, it references mailing address, and we would recommend to council that that be changed to street address, as it is possible for someone on that street to have a mailing address outside of the area even. So that small adjustment we'd like to make, as well as a provision to add as a condition that the street that's been renamed cannot be renamed again within the next 5 years, so that we cut down on any confusion that there might be and provide consistency with our street nomenclature. So those are the only two changes to this ordinance. Staff recommends adoption of the ordinance, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Does anybody have any questions, Shannon?
I just kind of wonder where you got 5 years from on that.
There's-
Is that typical, like with cities when they make this kind of change?
It's across the board. At the end of the day, the sole decision whether to rename or not rests with the city council. So that would be the criteria by which staff would review it. If an applicant wanted to go forward and council wanted to address it, you could. But it provides some parameters so that we don't go through a pretty labor-intensive process over and over on the same street.
No, listen, I think it should be longer. That's what I'm saying. I think it should be maybe 10 years, because, I mean, if you're going to go through the whole trouble of doing this and then everything has to be changed, I mean, to come back 5 years later and shake the glass ball again, it's like, I don't know, it's a little much. Well, we'll do that for discussion.
Okay. Anybody else? I guess, really, it's just, you can rename it in a month, right? If somebody, 3 votes on council wanted to change it in 5 years to 1 year, so, yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
Anything with 3 votes on council.
Yeah. I think it's 3. Okay, let's open it up to the public. Does anybody from the public have any comment on this ordinance change? Okay. Seeing none, let's close the public comment period. If there's any further discussion, we can have it, or we can have a motion. Any discussion? No?
No, I think you're right with that. You can change it anytime you want, so 5 years doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to, on first reading, ordinance number 1454, amending the Land Development Code, Article 5, Section 5.15, building numbering, street naming, and street renaming, revising criteria and definitions as presented.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Lori, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Randall?
Aye.
Councilmember French?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaney?
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie?
Aye.
Mayor Wentz?
Aye. Okay, we are on to discussion items. Our first discussion item this evening is about e-bikes and scooters. And Mark, would you like to introduce this item for us?
Yes, sir. At your last council meeting, the council discussed the recent proliferation of electric bikes and scooters, collectively termed e-micromobility devices in the city. So staff was directed to gather some information for inclusion in this packet. What was provided in this packet was a white paper produced by MetroPlan. It was done at the end of last year, sort of giving the state of micromobility as it stands right now. Talks a little bit about policy landscape. There's a nice matrix in there about what statutes provide for, what other counties and cities have done in terms of regulating. Looks a little bit about, background on who's writing them now, what the sales are, who's writing them now. Talks a little bit about policy and then some infrastructure considerations also as you deliberate what to do with micro-mobility devices. We've also included in your packet a statute that's working its way through the legislature in Tallahassee right now that has some basic parameters they're looking at putting on e-micro-mobility devices in discussions with our lobby team in Tallahassee. It looks like there's not a lot of opposition to this, so it's likely that this will move through, which puts, like I said, some basic parameters in terms of speed limits and distance from pedestrians. But I think the key piece of that is that the bill is creating an electrical bicycle safety task force that's looking to make recommendations on future legislation. So that's all included in your staff report. As you may have seen today in an email or on one of our communications channels, we've been talking about micromobility devices with our police department for some time now. And as I discussed with you, there's sort of two issues out there in terms of e-micromobility and other forms of transportation that are showing up more and more on our street. So what we're looking to do is to address the more heavily regulated, sort of the golf carts on the streets, and then dovetail into e-micromobility with an educational campaign. But since we hadn't received the input at the last meeting, we sort of flipped the script on that and started with the material we had created for e-micromobility devices. And so in terms of education campaign, educating the parents and then educating the children on the do's and don'ts of e-micromobility devices to keep them safe out there. So we've started that. Officer Daniel Holland, who is with our community policing unit, has done a bunch of research on this. He's sort of the face of the information campaign. So the information we're putting out there has his contact information on it. He's available to talk to folks about what you should do and shouldn't be doing. The first communication that went out was focused to parents because I think that's where the information needs to come. Parents need to be educated about what we're seeing out there, and then have those conversations with their children. The second communication is going to be focused more on the children, and they should be talking to their parents and what the basic do's and don'ts are when they're on the streets with their scooters and their e-bikes. So we're moving forward with that in terms of the education campaign. Now, education isn't anything without some level of enforcement. We're not looking to do any stringent enforcement. We're doing what we consider soft enforcement, where if an officer on the street would see someone on an e-bike or a scooter run a stop sign or be driving haphazardly or unsafely, having headphones on, things like that, they would stop them, have a conversation with them about safety, about what they should and shouldn't be doing, and make contact that way. So that's what we're proposing right now, is to move forward with that education campaign. There's going to be several phases to it that we'll be working with Danny Holland and the chief on and the community policing unit. That's where we're at right now. So just to give you some background information, where we are from a legislative standpoint and what we're doing from an educational standpoint. So with that, I would happily answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you for putting together this information. Thank you, MetroPlan. So it's an issue that has been on the mind of a lot of people in the city, and there's lots of opinions about how to approach it. I'm of the mind that, as Mark pointed out, I think it begins with education with people who are. I think this is mainly an issue of school-age kids who are. This has gotten most attention recently. not adults or other folks. It seems to be school-age children that we're most concerned about. So that would indicate that really the people who need to be involved in this or engaged in this are the parents and guardians of those who are using the bikes, and also probably some engagement with Orange County Public Schools and the other schools we have in the area as well. There's some kind of coordination because but a lot of the transportation is going to and from school. So coordinating with OCPS and coordinating with others probably makes sense in that regard. But does anybody on the council have any particular ideas or statements about how we might go ahead?
Well, I can say this, and you know, serving on the MAP, Metro Plan Advisory Committee, that, you know, Mark's approach to this is really the best way to go about it. And I think they would tell you that at Metro Plan. You know, first you go out and you educate, and, you know, and then you follow up from there. So I would really recommend that, you know, we go out to our elementary schools and our middle school and just have, you know, maybe we can get our officers, Mr. Holland, who does a fantastic job. I don't know if you've ever been to one of his presentations. He's very thorough and he does a great job at it, and maybe educate them first. You know, I did see today's Facebook post, and it was amazing, the responses. You know, I was really shocked by some of them were like, leave the kids alone. So, but yes, I think the suggestion from the city manager is really the best route to go.
And Councilman Guthrie, as far as getting into school, like I said, failed to mention that we do have good working relationships with all three principals at the school, as well as the principal at Orangewood. They've been more than willing to provide the information we provided them, send that home with the kids, provide it with the kids, and send it home with the kids. So we will certainly be working those channels through the schools and with our SROs that are in the schools.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just to add on to that, I think the near term, that's the best approach, but I think a vision for the city, we have to look at micro mobility and how we integrate it into our transportation network. You know, to educate is one thing, but eventually we're going to have enough of these. We're going to have to do some improvements to our roadways, our sidewalks, our pathways. We need to start thinking about that today. If you looked at the white paper and saw the numbers on privately owned e-bikes, before it was the fleet vehicles, now it's more privately owned, that's going to continue to increase. And I don't think we can manage a lot of this long-term with the infrastructure we have. So we need to look at how do we put in place the corridors that they can travel safely and have, compatible speeds, as well as, control structures for them. So I think that's something we need to look at for long term. And that may be something we need to look at during the budget cycle and put some money forward to start planning for that.
Yeah, I think Councilman Randolph, I think we said this the other day, is this would be good. This would be good for something to let our Transportation Advisory Board kind of, go over and then present a presentation to us on what their thoughts is and their advice going forward.
I would agree with that. I was going to bring that up under the next item.
Oh, man, sorry.
But that's fine.
Jump.
It's the right time for that too. I think it's a good segue to what the Transportation Board could be looking at long term, is proposing improvements or how we look at this. I know looking at the white paper, some of the things other jurisdictions are doing, and what I talked to the city manager about is, on our standard for our sidewalks today are 5 foot, but we have a lot of 4 foot wide sidewalks. Do we sacrifice the safety of our pedestrians on those narrower sidewalks with the bikes on there? Or do we restrict it like some communities have, eliminated them from riding on sidewalks altogether? Or do we make it where there are certain sidewalks they can't ride on, Is it the speed of the street that adjacent to the sidewalk, and does that control where they can ride? So I think there's a lot of things that the Transportation Board could look at, analyze, and come back with some ideas of how in the future we could integrate this into our community. And I might add that I haven't seen them yet, but I hear there's other micro transportation vehicles out there that are even smaller and possibly more four-wheel, like the old, big wheels scooting around and stuff. So I don't know if those are going to come to play in taking somebody down to the farmer's market or just in the neighborhood. But I think there's other things that are always going to be cropping up that we need to kind of anticipate. Unicycles, I've seen one guy on a unicycle type ball riding down the pathway as well, so.
Yes, Scott.
I should have asked the city manager about this during our conversation. I didn't think about it until afterward, but is there not a study of our downtown area underway that is looking at pedestrian, car, and bicycle, e-bicycle?
Yeah, the ad hoc committee that you appointed to work with the MPO on the downtown study, which is phase 2 of the downtown study. We've been through the issues we had with the initial DOT study, so I don't need to beat that dead horse, unless you would like me to. I'd be more than happy to go back over how disappointed we were with the Department of Transportation when they completed their report. But no, we're working on that right now to put together something we can build into our 5-year capital plan. It's back to the old story. We've invited 3,000 to 4,000 new residents into our downtown area that don't have the infrastructure to support them from a bike head standpoint. So we're working very hard to address that, to put that into a manageable 5-year capital plan, how to address that in the downtown area. We certainly could expand upon that. Obviously, we've invested heavily in our trail system over the last 7 years to complete that east-west connector trail and then spur trails that go off of it. So we'll be getting some recommendations coming out of that committee, which we can then look at doing a little bit more there. The other thing that's out there is the fact the state is looking at this, and this would be a prime area with the way that the legislature looks at things to preempt local government from regulating these things and have state regulations on these things, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we've been preempted on how golf carts work and what requirements are there, so there's uniformity across the state on how those can use the road. So it's not, preemption always isn't a bad thing. Lately, it's been mostly a bad thing, but this might be something that they choose to preempt to the legislature to regulate too. So we'll get a better feel for that as the legislation moves through and we listen to those discussions and the committee's appointed by the state to look at next steps as far as regulation of these micro-mobility devices.
Just a quick follow-up. That ad hoc report was begun, obviously this is on the horizon, but suddenly this has become much more central to our consideration. Are they specifically addressing this as part of that?
Well, they're looking at all forms of mobility, so, including how to move cars through safely, but to a lesser extent, we need to look at the bike ped movements in the downtown area, and that's what they're focusing on.
I was thinking mainly about, Bill's question about, this sort of changes the equation a bit if you imagine a rapid increase in the use of these, that, the way you design would be affected. I really have no doubt that they are taking this up. It seems, I just wondered if it had, if we have any contact with them and sort of.
We're keenly aware of it. Where we're seeing the biggest issues, and we can speak to that, is around the schools.
Yeah.
And that's where the highest volume of these micro-mobility devices are going. Around the schools and then into our parks and from our parks. That's where we're seeing most of it. And most of that's concentrated in the east side of the city, which shouldn't be any surprise to anyone.
So on that point, I also agree education is the way to go. I think from a public safety standpoint, my biggest concern are the tunnels and the bridges, where you have constricted space, because I think in most cases you can sort of see or hear people coming if you're just sort of out on the trails. But when you get into those constricted spaces, when you have sort of blind turns. So, and I know, there are warnings now that will tell you, I think, walk your bike. And I don't know how, I guess there may not need to be anything more than that. But I noticed that Orlando had a policy of posting certain areas. So it's not a blanket policy, but it's like, and I just wanted to sort of highlight sort of some of those areas that are a little treacherous anyway, even for, the use of pedestrians and bikes now, you have to be careful. I don't know how that gets changed if it's someone on an e-bike as opposed to a, human-powered pedal bike. It feels a little more dangerous to me. And I've been on the pedal bike when the e-bikes come through, and I feel a little bit, like, I gotta back off.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to raise that, just to think about those particular spots in our system where that might be an issue for posting.
Okay. Go ahead, Scott. You had a thought? Go.
Oh, no, just, and again, it may be just reviewing the posting that we have, not necessarily changing what's there, but just saying, is it still appropriate, and does there need to be more? And part of that education campaign could focus also on those particularly, dicey areas where you're sharing the space with others.
Yeah. So, I mean, I looked through the white paper, and of all the different cities regulating in different ways, and the state bills that are coming up, to regulate this, the ones that made sense to me, the only ones that really made sense to me, was, I guess, St. Johns County requires that e-bikes, micro-mobility users, while operating on the sidewalk, verbally announce their approach and maybe limit to 10 miles per hour in the vicinity of a pedestrian or a bike, and also verbally announce as you approach and overtake. And then traffic citations also are for safety education for teens and children, so rather than giving them a ticket. So mom and dad pay $200. The kids actually would, the citation would require some education to be cleared. And those types of things make sense to me, but also with the posting where we want to post it, because for instance, the trail along Sandsburg Road is different, it's an 8 or 10 foot wide trail, which we just put in, and, it's different than some narrow tunnel areas and narrow streets or blind corners and things like that. So a lot of that would have to do with, I think, posting, appropriate to the condition that we're trying to address. But I also think it's, this is the kind of thing where it's a good idea to hand it off to the Transportation Advisory Board to think it over and to kind of invite public comment in their meetings. They can, use all their energies and, to kind of focus on this, where we have a lot of different things to focus on. So this seems to be the type of thing that we would definitely farm out to an advisory board to help us with. And so they could look at, they could get the white paper as well, look what other people are doing, listen to their neighbors, hear what the complaints are. But people should feel safe, pedestrians should feel safe when they're on the sidewalks. And, kids should be respectful of that. And, but these, this e-bikes and e-scooters are not going away. I mean, this is we're at the front end of this, and to kind of wish it away or to say that they can't ride on sidewalks or things like that, I think it's not very, it's not going to be very useful. I think we're going to have to learn to live with them and live with them as best we can. And they're a great benefit is in some areas downtown here. So I think the downtown master plan issue of how we're going to move people around here is related, but somewhat different than the complaints that we've been hearing from people around the schools. I mean, it's adults versus children, I guess, right? And both deserve some attention, but probably different types of attention. So I would suggest we move this to Transportation Advisory Board, ask for their input on this and direction. Mark, what was the best way to do that?
I think it just, as you just did, I think that probably the best approach from our perspective would be to allow the ad hoc, because I would hate to cross-purpose have two committees doing the same thing. So if we let the ad hoc committees run their course, then we can provide that information. By that time, the legislature should be out of session, depending if they can get a budget adopted, because it looks like there might be some delays there with everybody holding their cards close to their chest. By the time the legislative session is over, we'll know what the legislation looks like, so we'll be able to take the recommendation for the downtown with what we know would be new statutory provisions, be able to hand that off to the new TAB to pick that up and run with it. So we'll be looking at downtown neighborhoods.
That makes sense. I agree with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I talked to the city manager about today too is whatever we do, we have to understand. I think to see what the state's going to do, if that's a uniform kind of approach to it that we can adapt or adopt. My concern is if we start every city doing something different, the people that are, riding through our community that don't know the rules of Maitland are now subject to being stopped for violating it. In Orlando, it's fine. In Maitland, it's not. Winter Park, it might be. Altamont's different. So I think it has to be somewhat uniform. Otherwise, we will have some people that don't live here that might come through here that are subjected to our rules and regulations, not knowing them because they haven't been educated on them.
And as Bill and I talked about today also, we want to also take into consideration our enforcers on this, because the more complicated you make it for our police force, the more challenging it is. You have a bunch of regulations that say you're restricted on these types of things, but not those types of things. We're kind of the same. We want to be able to make it easily enforceable too for our guys that are on the street out there, so they're not making mistakes.
Right.
On their belts, they'll have an ohm meter that will go up and measure the battery power on the bike to make sure it meets the code.
Right. Okay, so I'm not sure I understood, Mark, the timing on your recommendation. Are you suggesting that we wait until the legislature's out before we turn this over to?
Well, TAB typically meets on a monthly basis anyway. The legislature's scheduled to be out mid-March. You have ad hoc that's moving toward making their final recommendations to you sort of in that same time frame. So you would have everything to hand off to a TAB by then. So whenever those things all come together, then we'd be able to hand that off to it.
So to be clear, you're saying let the ad hoc vet it out and then do presentation at the same time? Yeah.
We
and that's
have a
what I thought.
smooth handoff from the ad hoc with sunset, turn all their work over to the TAB, and the TAB can take those next steps, because the TAB is the one that's reviewing the capital plan anyway, as we're moving forward into the next budget, so it seems like it'll make a nice transition.
I'd be okay with that.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't want to let too much.
And we'll still keep the education campaign going, so you're seeing the tip of the iceberg here, so we'll still keep that going and ratchet that up.
Right. Okay, and that can you briefly describe the education campaign? And I know we had it out on social media today, but is that, is it?
Yeah, pass this on. Yeah, this is what you have there, what you saw on social media, and one is geared toward the parents, the other one that hasn't been put out yet is geared more toward the children. We're going to continue to build on that, putting this into newsletters, working through the schools to put these campaigns together. Our SROs and Danny will be able to present to anybody that wants to present. So we'll be doing a pretty full court press on this, as well as after the first several weeks of the education campaign, then we'll be doing the soft enforcement piece of it, where we're actually stopping and engaging with the people that are, or the young adults that are violating the law, typically on the streets.
Were we able to do a little education piece on this at the last previous city events that we've had?
No, this is brand new.
All right.
This piece is brand new. Yeah. Danny's there all the time, but we could certainly work that into the city events too.
Yeah.
What we've been doing at the city events is working with the consultant team that's working with the ad hoc committee on the downtown mobility study. So they've been at the farmers markets and get down, taking public input there to inform the ad hoc committee on what the concerns are, what the direction can be, and how we would eventually solve some of these problems.
Yeah, I think it'll be important to kind of, as we said, full court press on this, to kind of get ahead of we're already kind of behind it, but to get as close to getting ahead as we can, because, as with most things, when it's harder to correct behavior once it's been ongoing for months, or, it's easier to correct people at the front end and you can kind of guide the trajectory that way. So I would, just let's keep an eye on how long the session's going to be in session, and hope, there's really, I guess, hopefully they'll dispatch from this before the end of the session. This should be a very tough, not to brag. And once it's done, we can move on, the MBO and see what they have to say about the downtown. But if that looks like it's going to be taking a significant amount of time, I would suggest we just kind of empower our TABs to start, the table will not get set by whatever the state comes up with.
And there'll be a learning curve too, since we have all new TAB.
Yep. Yep. Okay, great.
Mayor, based on the legislation, there's a database that's going to be created with all the accident information. Do we already collect that? If we have an accident out there involving a bicyclist or an e-bike, are we collecting most of that data anyway with age and those type of demographics? So that database kind of already exists in police reports. It's just not probably in a spreadsheet that would be fed to the state or whatever.
The record shows the chief is nodding. Chief, if you would not, can you come up to the mic?
He comes here and sits, and we need to put him to work.
So yeah, all information we put in for state action report automatically goes to Tallahassee, which vehicles involved, bicycle, motorcycle, e-bike, if your cell phone's involved, all that data is already put through the computer to the state.
It looked like, to me, one of the issues in the legislation was, I guess, there's a uniform traffic citation form, I guess, and this would be, they're thinking about adding maybe a line to that form to say, did this involve an e-bike or a scooter or something like that?
Yes, well, that's something to go to add onto a citation, e-bike.
Yeah.
Be another whole other box or category.
And again, this is all new because I know before that, it was just considered bicycle. So, this is all new that we're finally counting them as e-bike, correct?
E-bike, which still falls under bicycle.
Yeah. So you don't really know if it's an e-bike or a bike then?
Well, if it's electrified, it's an e-bike instead of...
No, but it has its own category.
Yeah.
Where it used to be in with bicycles.
Bicycle.
All right, thank you, Chief. Anything else on this discussion? We're all happy with the direction?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Citizen Resident Advisory Board and Commissions.
If you all are okay, I'll take that on since it was kind of my idea.
Please do.
Is that all right? So we've already talked about this and everything that's, we're needed and stuff. So what I really thought today is, to come here and present to y'all what I think the goal should be, and then a suggestion to council here of what we should do going forward and how we should do it. So my goal really that I'd like to see is how we can bring boards and get them engaged in a meaningful way to provide input to the city policies and decisions. So then the suggestion I have how we do that is I'd like to schedule a workshop. We just canceled that day 9, so maybe we could do it somewhere soon. And it could be before that. I'd be happy to do it before that. And invite current, past advisory board members. Ask about their current experience. How do you feel right now serving on the boards? And also see what they think the board should be doing going forward. Kind of just get all their, get their input, open it up to them, let people get up there, talk. And then what should we do with that input? I think we would sit here, and review the input between us, the council, and then create what I call start, stop, and continue in making changes. So what is start? Start are new things that we would want to incorporate into our boards. What things should we be doing, some nuances and stuff. Stop is things that aren't working. We just don't use them. And then continue would be things that do work, and we can keep up with that. Now today, I did go through a lot of the constitutions and a lot of the here we go, constitutions here, sorry, in the bylaws. And I don't think this is the place and time right now to review. I think it would be at that time where we all have been able to review them. And then discuss, because I did see some items in there that, that we are doing right now that we need to, really take focus on. And so that's kind of where I'm going with this in my recommendation. So, and then a lot of stuff we're also getting that should have already been vetted. Like we said before, TAB, let's send this back to TAB to farm it, as you said. And so, really like to start seeing that get more active, but really, those are my goals, to just really get these boards engaged in a meaningful way to help us. So.
Okay, well, thank you, guys. I think
Yeah.
you thought this through and have direction for us. Anybody have any?
Yeah, I went through the packages too, and again, I think the element of each one that really makes sense is the Constitution, because that really lays out the guidelines of what they're supposed to be doing. And in most cases, as I stated before we had this conversation, we appoint the boards to work for us, and I think we have fallen down on giving them something to do. So it's up to us to kind of come up with some of these task items that they're responsible for or within their realm. Because some of the stuff that they normally do, I talked to the city manager, they look through the master plans annually, they look at the capital improvement program, but that doesn't take up but a couple meetings. So there's other times, if we're asking them to spend their time and energy to meet and advise us, we need to give them something to advise us about.
Oh, Councilman Randolph, I did also, and I have a list of things I was like, oh, we don't do this, 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 and this, and this, and this. So, I mean, that's where I'd like to do that at the workshop,
Yeah.
Bring them in, and then we discuss those things and kind of, just listen to everybody.
Yeah, I would agree.
Solve.
I mean, a workshop might be the best environment. Everybody can get together, have a cup of coffee and talk about this, and we might learn something from their perspective too of what they thought the board was going to be or what they were going to be doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Comments on that?
I guess one question would be, having enough turnout at a workshop like that, scheduling a time when people can come. I don't know if it would be before a meeting, something like
It's
that.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. meeting?
Yeah.
Although that's a pretty short amount of time to get a lot of feedback.
Prior to the meeting or any 6 p.m.?
Oh, it is 6 p.m.
Oh, it is 6 p.m.
It's 6, sorry.
Yes, but
I didn't mean to-
one idea was before the meeting, but no, okay.
Oh.
So 6 p.m. But the other thought I had, and this is, I think, maybe inviting everybody and just seeing who comes is one thing. But another thing would be to have one of us, a delegate, go to these meetings, if they're held. That's the problem. A lot of them get canceled. So unless you had it on the agenda to meet with a council member, that we could, with each committee as a committee with a particular assignment to talk to them as well. What I notice is a lot of them get canceled. So at least as it's coming in from.
Now we got 2 months left.
Oh, yeah, no, that's right, no, I know, this doesn't work.
I'd like to get this done.
Now, I think your approach makes sense, especially given your leadership on this issue, that you want to do this in an accelerated fashion. I think maybe looking forward, if there's a way to, occasionally check in on the committees, to go to the committees and do this more informally.
Well, even if we did a workshop, though, at minimum, once they select their chairman, vice chairman, those would be the two
Oh, that's
essential people that need to be there.
Yeah.
Other members could be there
That's
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those would be the critical.
I like that idea.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we say, listen, we need to have the chair and vice chair there, and then anybody else is welcome, but at least those two to represent. Yeah, and then past members also.
What does the timing look like? Ben suggested 6 PM. Does that work, or is lunch better?
No people work, right?
So,
Yeah.
Well, at the risk of loading up city clerk's plate, is it possible to run a poll on this and see from the chair, vice chair of each of the boards when they might be available in the next 2 weeks, either given a lunch or an evening date? And then, Bill, you said you're going to be out on the 23rd, right?
Correct.
So having it back in that day wouldn't probably work, but we could do it. Good. What is the schedule?
There are, I don't know, and I don't have it in front of me, so I would have to get back tomorrow. I don't know how many have met so far this year to elect a chair and vice chair right now at this point, so.
Zero now?
Well, you just appointed them your last meeting.
Yeah.
But then if they don't have anything to do, they may not meet for a while, so we might need to just, maybe the invitation then really is to everyone.
Yeah, send out an email.
Yeah. Let's see. Look for some kind of, some mass, that looks like it'd be good for us to gather. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, how many?
17 people
17 total?
for the 3 boards.
Yeah, then you won't have everybody, and then maybe you have some extra people that did serve, so.
Okay.
Yeah, save 17 to 20 people at most.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm assuming that the Planning and Zoning Commission's role is very
Yeah.
specifically outlined in code and charter, so.
Then you go get a cup of coffee if they like.
Yeah, I'm just thinking advisory boards, that's what this is all about, not really.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, the pension board does their own thing too, so this is.
Yeah.
This is just strictly for ERAB, LAB, and
TAB.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, let's, and, we want to get this going sooner rather than later.
Yes,
It's something
sir.
we've been talking about for a long time. I think, Lori, you're going to get busier as the months get longer here. The daylight gets longer. So, something in the next couple of weeks, do you think? Is everybody available? When are you leaving?
I'm not leaving till the 18th of March.
Conflict on Wednesday evenings, 6 o'clock, and I teach.
Yeah, I can make myself available whenever. Steve? Yeah, so.
Well, let's work on that
Does
and
that help you out, Lori?
send out emails to 17 people plus us. Plus staff.
my suggestion is we pick a date. The more I send it out to and try to get a poll, the more it's going to be
Yeah, well, 17 people, that's gonna be
more
hard.
all over the place. So my suggestion is what works best with your schedules. If I could have a day or two, and then we can build from there as a little bit.
I'll throw a date out. How about Tuesday, the 24th? That gives everybody plenty of time to reach out to people and spread the word. And
I could do either lunch or evening.
Yeah, I would suggest evening.
Yeah, I can do the 24th.
We have an ad hoc committee meeting, downtown ad hoc committee meeting on the 24th.
Ad hoc transportation?
The downtown study,
In here?
yes, typically.
How about the 25th or 6th?
I think we can't do the 25th.
Uh,
No, I'm working the 26th. How about 23rd? Oh, we got a meeting already. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get this. 19th? Would that be too early?
I can do the 19th.
I can do the 19th.
Is that okay with you? Yeah. Okay.
All right.
And we set a suggested a 6 p.m. start.
I would personally would like that, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, guys, I appreciate this.
Sure. It's an important thing to get done.
What time?
6 p.m. 6.
All right. Anything more on that? You good? All right. All right, so our next discussion item is the Fort Maitland Parker Road Bridge. And so I sent out, or it was sent out by others, a new draft of the text. Now that I'm not so constrained, I can let creative juices flow. And so we've got, those are my two, and I'll just walk you through the first one. So on the first one it's kind of set up like the prior Fort Maitland marker was. So that the little heading there directly east of this highway on the west shore of the lake, and that part Fort Maitland was built. They kind of, it sets it up more or less like it was on the one that is no longer there. And it also, I think it adds a little bit of the context that we had lost in the briefer one, goes into a little bit about who Maitland was, where he was in these battles, and that is 1,210 characters. So we had another 25 characters to expend there if we wanted to. And then the flip side of that is also goes into the Indian Removal Act, which would be a new aspect of the marker. It kind of puts the context of why Fort Maitland was here in the context of the Seminole War. And there's a comment about what we're going to call the war, I think, in both of these things. And it was noted that, for the Seminoles and for the Mixicukis and people who were here, Native people who were here, they didn't consider this the Second Seminole War. They just thought of all the Seminole conflicts starting from 1817 mostly through 1855 as one long kind of assault. And there certainly is merit to that thought. So what I tried to do, if you go to the first one, the Fort Maitland plaque, so Fort Maitland was built by the U.S. Army during the Florida War, which is what it was known as for the first, 50, 60, 100 years. It is only lately, very lately, become known as the Second Seminole War. But if we're talking about, a very specific period from 1835 to 42, that really is the Second Seminole War. It started on, in December of 1835 and it ended in 1842 as far as the United States Army was concerned. So from the United States standpoint, that war was discrete. It had to start at any point. And it's confused, it's difficult. I'm sympathetic to the kind of the idea that there was really just one long period from the Seminole aspect. but it's difficult to talk about the fort itself and also the Indian Removal Act, which is also fairly constrained if you're talking about a 50-year period. So anyway, that, I struggle with that. And this is, I would also say, this is suggested language, and you all feel free to review and add and suggest and remove. It's my first crack at it, and if there's more to be said about it or less, we can talk about that. But that was one of my, I was trying to explain why I was having a hard time, identifying this period without really just saying second Seminole War, and as well as saying other things.
I can understand that, Mayor. In the history books, it's a whole chapter down to 1,210 words. Characters, not even words, characters.
Right?
I thought it was succinct and to the point. The only suggestions I had was, where you say, although Maitland never knew, I would say visited rather than knew this area. The Florida War, should that be in quote marks?
It has single quotes around
The Florida War.
Yeah, would you suggest it should or should not?
I would think it'd have quote marks.
Okay.
But it does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Single.
I'll put it in double.
Right, right. I think that might be an issue elsewhere too.
With characters.
Well, I don't know, I don't think it would change characters, would it?
Yeah, last character too, but that's, we have a few to play with.
Yeah, I thought that too. And I don't think you need that, apostrophe before the 42 there. I think, typically you could, if you pick up a character there, we're going to get into wordsmithing here.
The only other comment I had was, based on your last line that was the settlement was designated as Maitland. Factually, when Beasley incorporated the post office here, he called it Lake Maitland.
Yeah.
So it's a town of Lake Maitland.
Yeah, and that was, I took that verbiage directly from the old one. So that, but if it's incorrect, and the old one's incorrect, and we can make it correct, that's kind of our point here.
Yeah.
So was Beasley's post office, was that 1872, or what was
It
the?
was December 21st, 1871 when he applied for it, and January 2nd, 72 is when it was designated the post office.
So, it's the town of Lake Maitland?
Yeah, well, it's just called Lake Maitland. Will be known as Lake Maitland.
Okay.
And then later, I think they added the town of Lake Maitland.
Right.
And then later, they eliminated town and lake.
Right. And there'd be double quotes there too. Okay. And I guess maybe once we have kind of general agreement on the verbiage, the idea we talked about this before was to send it to, at least to the Miccosukee tribe who's interested in looking at it. And let them review it, and it might be further changes to come back to us to discuss. So, if it's good enough for that purpose, yeah, more that's fine.
Just, I feel really hate to think you raise, because it gets down to this, we did this on the council too. It's basically, so there's a lot of passive voice in the beginning of this. There was Bill, Central Florida was, the Seminole Tribes mission was to defeat. I think that can be made more active, and I think that takes a little work. I mean, I hate to do that because you're working really hard on this.
No, that's fine. I mean, I spent a lot of time worrying about passing that.
Yeah.
So I get that.
So another thing is at the war's onset, Central Florida was the Seminole Tribes reservation. And I guess Central Florida is such a vague term, and is there a way to, that's why it's interesting when you think about maps and things, what did that mean in terms of the law? Had this area was part of a designated area, so Central Florida and beyond, or?
Yeah, so that, maybe the thing, we talked about that other plaque where it would be, waist high or whatever, with maps and everything like that.
Right.
We would blow through our 1,235 characters if I were to explain that, but the reservation was a function of the 1823 Treaty of Camp Moultrie, and that, or Moultrie Creek, and that, it basically was from Ocala in the north to really, I mean, it was just kind of undesignated line somewhere south of, like Sebring, and then from the St. Johns River, more or less, to about 15 miles from the Gulf. So it took up, that is Central Florida. I mean, it depends on how you want to define it, but they were trying to keep the tribes away from the coast because they didn't want them trading with the British or Spanish, and so they kind of created this reservation in the central. So we're right in the middle of it.
So your point in doing that was to say they were here in a sense legally under U.S. law. They had been, in a sense, confined to this area, and now they were being pushed out because of an Indian removal policy. Right. So I see why you want to get that in there.
Yeah, I think it's a point that is often overlooked.
Yeah.
And so, it's just like people say, oh, the Seminoles are around, let's just get rid of it. But they had cut a deal, and they were, the deal was they got this area. And then they cut another deal, allegedly, which, but that's a whole,
that's a whole other blog post.
Yeah, exactly. It's already been a blog post. You can read all about it in my blog.
Yes.
But I think it's important to put that in. This area that we're sitting in now was the United States designated as the Seminole Reservation.
Right. And I think it may come as a surprise. I think that's what's kind of interesting about this marker is to awaken people to that history. It touches this area very directly. So I think that's great. It's just about it's always about how to say it very succinctly. So I don't want to get rid of it. But the passive voice somehow seems to cut against that. And somebody made it, somebody designated it that.
Right.
And that might take a little bit more
polish,
but I don't know that you need to do that right this. Do we need to come up with that exact line right now, or?
No, we got to, I mean, we don't, until we decide to expend money on a marker, I think this is all fluid in my mind.
I agree with I like what you've done. Basically, I like how you've chosen to highlight these particular facts. And now it's really just about crafting it into the space, the characters on it.
I'm really impressed, man. You guys have really done your work on this. I mean, you have just done amazing, I think. So.
Thank you.
It's very strong.
I mean, y'all probably spent hours, just as a group, probably 20 hours on this, right?
We've argued about quote marks for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's also the final smaller marker, and this will give us. I spent less time on this. It really is the marker about the marker is what it is. But it's its own interesting little story, and I think it's worth putting up there. And it would also give us the opportunity to do things graphically that we don't have to do by text. We can show a picture of a map, show a picture of for General Jessup or Osceola or whoever. That would be more interesting, more engaging, I think, for people.
Yeah, on this narrative, the only thing I had looked at was that last line, the cocaine, the stone, and its plaque.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are really just one.
Yeah.
It's a bronze plaque still sitting there at the fort site. And I added in there some suggested language, A, B, or C. A was south of Fort Maitland Park, B, southeast of this marker, or C, at the entrance of West Cove condominiums. A little bit more specific.
I don't know, I'm being overly cautious on this. Kind of the reason I didn't really identify it was I worry that, or that, number one, but also vandalism. I mean, I don't know.
It's been sitting there how many years?
Well, 'cause
I
nobody
think
knows
it
about
shrank. I think it shrank from the original picture, but.
Well, Shannon had the idea of getting the shovel out and seeing how far down it goes. I think it's sunk. So,
Something buried under there, maybe.
yeah.
Time capsule.
Yeah, so that one, I think, is less, I mean, you know, we can kind of tool around with that as we want to. But, you know, if we're thinking, I mean, again, the idea would be to do this, have it all done by sometime in the fall. And send out invitations to the Seminole Tribe, Big Sioux Tribe, Black communities in Texas and Mexico as well. You know, have a party. So, maybe, I mean, I don't know what is a good way forward on this? Got the basic language, I could send it out to the tribes, see what they say about it,
Yeah.
come back, you know, see what they,
Yeah, let's at least get that under our belt,
Yeah.
so.
yeah. And Shannon's done some legwork on possible manufacturers who could do the sign and what it looks like, and then we can kind of decide whether we want it blue or green or black or whatever at some point.
Just wanted to add that one of the students in my class, graduate students, is an oral historian for this. I think I mentioned this for the Seminoles, and we talked about this the other night, and he said, yeah, they absolutely, especially if you're going to invite them to the ceremony, that they would want to see this. And he has contacts, so
Okay.
for the Seminoles, I think we could identify who those people would be. Maybe it's like the SHPO for the reservations, the preservation officers or somebody like that. So we can get that
Okay.
info for you.
Yeah, if you can give that, maybe the thing to do, if you all would authorize me to approach them, Scott, in order to not trip up on the sunshine law, give that information to Lori,
Yes.
and then, you know, I can send a note, a letter, or whatever. I get something from the SHPO from the Mexican tribe, so, you know, see where that goes.
Also, one of our former council members, Keith White, who lives in my neighborhood, I discussed this with him, and his wife is a member of the DAR, I think the Winter Park chapter. So I sent some information to her. So again, they may not be involved in this process, but when we do the ceremony, I think it would be nice, because they were the ones that funded the original sign in Coquina Rock, to have them invited at least.
Right, no, I think that's a good idea. Actually, I got an email from Rachel,
The Orlando.
yeah, somebody at Orlando, it wasn't the Mary Cable. So yes, the daughter reached out to us, and so maybe they,
Okay.
but yeah, I think they absolutely should be invited and informed, and, you know, the more the merrier. Yeah, okay. And so, Shannon, do you have any idea, I mean, I guess if you want to back up this to make sure it's manufactured in time, if we were going to do something in October, when do we have to have something to our sign people?
So it's going to take approximately 20 to 24 weeks to manufacture the larger sign. The smaller signs will take a lot less time and can be done concurrently. We have several local vendors that would be able to do the work for the sign. And so you're really looking at about 4 months, potentially a little bit longer for the manufacturing. Still needs to be installed as well.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is that this history is not going to change.
Yeah.
You know, I think views on it might change. But, okay, thank you, Shannon.
Could I ask one quick question about the choosing the sign, the style also affects the characters, right? And did you write to the like of the large ones? You know, do we need to choose the design because it affects the number of characters available, as I see it?
Yeah, I couldn't really tell. It seemed like I had a lot more words than were on those sides. But Shannon, you thought that 1235 was pretty much the
Well,
number.
I'm seeing 1386, 1656, you know, they vary.
They have their, specification.
Each one of these has its own specification, and, you know, if we decided soon enough which one we want, or we're inclined to go with, we would have our target character count.
Change some of these passive voices into active voices.
Yeah, I know. I think it would be okay, you know, but,
Is that, Shannon, does that sound right? Is that, I mean,
Yeah, the signs that you see here are manufactured by the same company that the state of Florida uses, and multiple other states utilize the same company as well. They do manufacture more signs than what you see. The examples in your packet represent the larger signs that would fit the number of characters that you all have been discussing.
right. So, for example, this one I like, which was kind of green, which I thought would look nice in the park, but it actually has 1,600, which is plenty of space.
What was the name of that?
That's the Revised Ohio. But, you know, all of them have their merits, but, you know, some of them just look a little old-fashioned to me, and maybe the colors aren't, they vary by color, too. So it's worth looking at these, I think. If you haven't already, take a look at them and see if you have any preferences, because maybe we could also nail that down. That gives you a little more freedom. We don't have to worry about parsing out, you know, 10 characters or something. We may have 100 available to us.
okay.
Just a question, I mean, like, back to it, you guys worked hard on this, I mean, do you want, my thought would be, you should add your names to it also, give you some little credit.
It just has to last another 87 years.
Yeah.
So that-
And let's say a delegation of council members along with nominating us.
Get our pictures in our magazine.
Yeah, I kind of favor the Georgia or the Freedom, just more because they had kind of a rounder logo in front of
Oh, you guys just remember to invite me, I'll be gone by then.
We'll remember it.
Yeah.
It would be helpful if you could make
It's 1,000
that
characters.
decision
That's
tonight,
less small
and
one.
that decision
No,
tonight.
large.
Oh.
Oh, wait, no, I understand.
If you want to,
Yeah, I haven't really,
oh, you haven't had a chance?
Yeah.
Okay,
Which style, you mean?
yeah.
we can, if that's all we want to do, we can bring it back for next time. I think that's the last.
Just have that
I'm making a decision item on the,
Yeah, but
Just for the sign
for the
style.
style.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll save that for the next meeting.
yeah, on March 9th.
No.
That decision's already been made.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
All right. Is that kind of like a plan, everybody? All right.
So I guess before we get,
Yep.
so the question is, so if we use the manufacturer the state uses, that's the 24-month time frame. If we used a local sign vendor, would it be less?
4 weeks.
No, 24 weeks, 4 months.
Oh, 24 weeks.
Yeah.
But
The-
what about, is that local vendor or is that their vendor?
No, the local vendors would not be manufacturing that particular sign.
That'd be the small size.
That was for the smaller.
Okay.
That's the sign for the sign.
Okay.
Oh, it was 24 weeks, 6
6 months?
Well, I thought you said 4 months.
It's a good deal.
4 to 5.
Oh, 4 to 6 months. Okay. 4 to 6 months. Yeah, you better get on this. You might not be sitting in your seat by now.
Sure is. All right. Okay. Yeah, we'll with all due haste, get this done so we can pass on.
Not that I want to backpedal or take us back, but I have to. You guys selected, I just wanted to make everyone aware for this workshop. Several of you have reached out and let me know you either signed up or wanted me to sign you up for the 4-hour ethics training. And this is on that same day in the morning. So for some of you that,
Was this the wood one?
That's it. Do I have to do that? Since I'm done, right? No, I'm out.
You have to go to the.
Good. 'Cause, I mean, you still gotta do your tax reports and all that stuff, and all this other kind of stuff you gotta do. I just wanna make sure.
So we're going.
They do give you breakfast. You get coffee and bagels.
just wanted to make sure you were good for 4 hours of that and then a workshop that evening, so, before I send this out.
4 hours, when is it 4 hours?
In the morning, it goes 8 to noon.
Okay. All right.
Everybody good with that?
So of steel. All right. Let's go with reports, Mr. City Attorney.
Very brief, and I'll call it sort of good news. It can be really good news depending on how long it goes this way. Nothing good from the House side, but nothing at all from the Senate side, which is the good news, because unless there's a dueling Senate bill or a companion bill, this tax reform is not getting anywhere. There is also no agreed upon replacement revenue, but that doesn't have to happen in order for this to make it to the ballot. So we can, this could turn out like last year, where the Senate was not on the same page regarding CRAs and elimination. So I'm offering that bit of hope because I'm tired of being Mr. Doom and Gloom.
So do you think there's a chance that the governor calls him back in the session on this?
Oh, I think it's 100% chance that he'll call him back, but if he can't change the Senate's mind, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, that's happy news. Thank you. Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, just again quickly, but I think it's kind of important. We're going to start a public outreach on another issue. We are going to be introducing the city's new internet domain. We've been working with the itsmymaitland.com for quite some time, which is a bit problematic because if you spell it correctly, there's an apostrophe in it, and it is my Maitland. So, and we did manage to get a hold of maitlandflorida.gov, maitlandfl.gov, which is your standard governmental domain name. This will affect the website and our emails because we'll be going to the maitlandflorida.gov. The police department will stay the same. They're maitlandpd.org. So it's probably a little bit easier, the domain will probably a little bit easier way for the city of Maitland to be out there without any confusion. And also for federal grants and money that is federally sourced through the state, more and more they're requiring you to have a .gov domain name. So this will tick that box in our applications as we're going out there for grants. We'll be able to, over the next year, we'll be using both. So there'll be a transition where we'll be using the .gov and the .com address. So they'll all be the same user, so you can send it to mragatine@itsmymaitland.com or maitlandfl.gov. They'll still all get to me and to anybody on staff. So we'll send out notices to all our channels, to the website, social media, user emails we have. So we're looking to completely phase out the itsmymaitland.com by the end of this calendar year. So it'll be a transition this calendar year to get everybody used to it. See how that goes and phase it out by the end of the year and just go completely to the maitlandfl.gov. So you'll be seeing that messaging coming out over the next couple of weeks. And then quickly events. First, congratulations to the Audubon Center for Birds of Prey. They're going to have their grand reopening this weekend. So there's a lot of improvements there, sort of phasing it, but the grand reopening is this weekend.
They have their event on the 12th.
12th?
On Thursday night?
Yeah. Have you all gotten an invitation to that, everybody?
I would say one.
Katie, send that to the city.
I'll give her a call and remind her.
Yeah.
But this is actually the new owl aviary that they're opening on Thursday night.
Yeah, I can do that.
It'll be there.
All right, our next Maitland Community Cleanup is 9 to 11 on Saturday, the 21st, February 21st, at Lake Sibilia Beach. That's where registration, that's what we'll be taking off from. Movie in the park this month is Wild Robot. That's also February 21st, 6:30 here in Independence Square. And our Get Down Downtown, March 6th from 6 to 9, Independence Lane. Don't forget, election, March 10th. So that's all I have.
Okay. Madam City Clerk? Nothing to report. Any reports from council at all?
I got a couple things. I did hear, I was at the Chamber Awards the other night, and the Young Entrepreneurs group they have will be doing part of that cleanup, so it'll be fantastic. That's one of the things they're doing. Question, Mr. City Manager. The townhomes over there, I believe it's Lot 8 on Maitland Concourse North, are we seeing that anytime soon, or where are we at with those townhomes?
I believe they're still working on their final resubmittals, aren't they, Mike?
Yes, we are going to have the comprehensive plan amendment is coming on the 23rd, but they are working on the plan development for the final townhome.
Okay.
Still working its way through the process.
And just FYI, my last MAC meeting, Metro Plan Advisory Commission meeting, will be next month, and we will need a replacement for that position on the MAC. So if anybody's interested, we'll need somebody to represent the great city of Maitland.
Will that run through the city clerk? Will it handle the,
Yeah, we have to be seated.
It's I've really enjoyed my time on it the last 5 years. It's just been very educational, and I've learned a lot, and it's just really things that I've brought back, and it's been helpful to decision making on items. And I mean, it's just amazing that, like the other day they were talking, the MAC serves the same area space as the state of Rhode Island. So that's how much they do there and how many things are going on, so.
okay.
Yep.
All right, anything else down there? No? Okay, then let's stand adjourned.
I was just going to say real quick that the map, hopefully the map that Shannon included in the package,
Yeah.
we were all talking about the forts, and that was the highest resolution map I could find of the fort system in Florida.
Oh, okay, okay, good. Thank you.
It's taco time. Taco.